Hello, I'm Mary Staver with the Royal Neighbors Foundation, and we're pleased you've joined us for today's webinar, Building a Solid Foundation and Envisioning a Prosperous Year. So welcome back to those of you who have joined us before, but in case you haven't and this is your first time, I'd just like to talk a little bit about what our foundation does. It is a public charity and it's dedicated to building women's futures through financial education. And through the foundation, we host several programs that support our mission. And one of them is our Build Your Worth grant that awards $1,000 to women pursuing a degree in a finance-related field. Applications are now being accepted through our online process. So if you know someone or if you are that person that fits those eligibility requirements, we would definitely want you to go online and put an application in. Another program that we have at the foundation is your Know Your Worth grant, and we are about to reveal our 2017 winner of that grant. So watch the website for information about that winner. This award provides $10,000 to a deserving female entrepreneur, and I can tell you that our winner has a very interesting story and a lot to offer through this grant, so please check that out. You can visit our website at www.royalneighborsfoundation.org. And just a reminder, all of these programs are made possible by generous donations to the foundation by individuals like you who believe in our mission, so a big thank you to all of those who contribute. Today, our topic focuses on the future and how important it is to set goals. So it is a perfect time to start thinking about things that you want to try to accomplish this year. At the foundation, we understand that women's lives are filled with priorities, and the journey to building a strong financial future can be filled with unplanned events and questions and bumps in the road, and those slow us down. So that's why we provide these educational webinars that are geared to women and their unique interests and challenges. So now let's get started learning more about today's event. And again, this topic is perfect for the beginning of a new year. So it's my pleasure to have Kristen Euretig join us now. Kristen is a certified financial planner and co-founder of Brooklyn Plans. It's a New York-based financial planning company that's focused on helping people like us take control of our finances. Kristen develops individual plans, and she does education through webinars and workshops. So she is very well qualified to provide us this information today. So please help me in welcoming Kristen Euretig back to the foundation. Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for that introduction, and thank you for having me today.
Great. So are you keeping warm out there on the East Coast?
Yes, we've been through a really bad cold spell, but I think we may be coming out the other side of it for now.
Well, there might be one headed your way because we're pretty much in a deep freeze here in the Midwest. So hopefully.
No, don't tell me we have another one.
So anyway, well, I'll let you go ahead and get started with today's topic because I know we have a lot of people who are interested.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction. And thank you to everybody who is joining today on what's maybe your lunch break. And thanks for giving that to that. I was going to say that time to us, but really I'm going to modify that and say that time to yourself because this is really for you to learn some tangible steps you can take to improve your finances this year, and also learn about something that is a funner topic when it comes to financial planning of all the topics that we could discuss, you know, budgeting, retirement, saving. I think the most exciting and possibly most important one is starting with the big picture, and that involves what we're going to talk about, some sort of creative exercises, which is fun for me as having, well, as we all do, a creative side. You know, we all have that left brain, right brain, so we have a side that may be stronger than the other, but yet we both can tap into our we all can tap into our creativity as well as our ability to think rationally and plan and crunch the numbers. And so for those of you that feel like you're much stronger on the artistic side or the visual side as opposed to looking at Excel spreadsheets, then this is a really great one for you, and it can be hard to connect with people that think more visually with the ideas in financial planning. So this is one that can really appeal to people who may not otherwise feel very excited or feel like financial planning is as accessible to them and the way that they think. But this is an exciting topic, I think, for everyone, and one that's really fun to present as well. So before I dive in, just a few quick housekeeping things. We are going to save Q&A for the end. We have a dedicated space for that, and Mary will help us with that. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, please go ahead and use your chat. And I believe you should have the option to chat directly to Mary. If not, you can chat to the panelists. I believe that you should have that option. And that way, she will store up your questions and ask, and we'll have an opportunity to go through them at the end. I'm going to be asking you some poll questions, and I will also ask you to use your chat screen, which you can use to respond to all participants so that we can all see what your answers are as long as we feel comfortable sharing. So I'm going to jump in here with the presentation, and hopefully you can all see my screen. So I am a former New York City school teacher. I always start every presentation or class with objectives, so you know what it is that you are going to get out of this time that we spend together. And those are, 1, to explore creative ways to connect to your financial goals, to consider how a vision exercise can help prepare you to take steps to reach your goals, and to review common goals and first steps to tackle in the new year. So we want to start off big picture, and we want to tap into that, and then we want to take you through some actionable next steps by the end of the presentation today. And this is our agenda, so you know exactly how we'll be spending the time. We'll do an introduction, the power of a clear vision, which includes financial vision boarding and envisioning exercises, and then we'll wrap up with tips and tricks to take actionable steps on your goals. So I want to introduce myself briefly. I think Mary did a great job. I am Kristen Euretig, a certified financial planner. I've also, the great thing about being an entrepreneur and starting your own business is you get to make up your title. So I've made up and love my title, Women's Wealth Warrior, which I'm very connected to. And this is a picture of me on the Royal Neighbors of America featured quarterly magazine, just to show you that the Royal Neighbors Foundation and its sister organization, Royal Neighbors of America, have been very supportive of including me and promoting the message that and common mission that we both share, which is to empower women to be educated financially and take control of their finances. So I want to start off with a quick poll question. What experience do you have with visualization and or vision boarding? So that could be A, no experience, B, a little experience, C, some experience, or D, a lot of experience. So I'm going to ask you to go ahead and answer in the chat here. Great. I had a fear for a moment that that you guys couldn't hear me because I got some chats about people not being able to hear, but I think it's something about individual settings. So go ahead and answer in your chat screen. If you have A, no experience with visualization exercises and vision boarding, and you can send that to all participants. B, a little experience. C, some experience, or D, a lot of experience. everything's going a little bit slow here, but I did get a response from Antonia, so thank you for sending that in, a little experience. So that's helped me just to gauge where the participants are at and what you guys have done before with this type of work, so I know where you guys are coming from. So let's go ahead and move forward. I also wanted to introduce you briefly to Brooklyn Plans. We provide 3 main services to our clients, which are today's women. We do investment management, personalized financial plans, and classes and events. And you are all participating in an event today, and you can also see how these events play out and look when they're live in person and there's a group all together. So you can just imagine that we are experiencing that together even though we're not in the same place, in the same room. So I want to start off by talking about the power of a clear vision. So why is it important to have a clear vision? And I think about how often I use my phone to get directions to where I need to go. And the first thing that I have to know when I plug into my phone when I want to get information about how to get there is where I'm going, right? If I don't know where I'm going, my phone can't help me figure out how to get there. So financial planning is very similar in that you need a clear destination before making a plan will really be helpful. And so this work that we're talking about today is not sort of hokey or woo-woo or out there. It's actually the very first thing I do with my clients. In the very first session, we talk about, you know, what would you be doing if money were no object? What are the things you enjoy about daily life? What are your goals and dreams? So this idea of having a clear vision is the first step of crafting a financial plan, and it's super important because everything else falls in line from there. But you have to identify a destination in order to then get a plan to get there, and I think we all know that intuitively when it comes to something as, you know, simple as figuring out how to get to a new doctor, but we may not think the same way about how to manage our finances. So I use this practice a lot of envisioning and connecting to a bigger picture with my clients. And these are examples, and I've been using this for a long time in my practice. And that was before I had any sort of hard and fast information about why, which I'll share with you. But I just felt that it helps people to tap into financial planning by getting an opportunity to be creative and craft their own cover to a financial plan. So I ask all of my clients to come up with a title and an image for the cover page of their financial plan. So instead of giving my client something like, you know, Samantha Smith Financial Plan, January 16, 2018, which is super boring and impersonal, I ask them to decide, you know, what is it that we're doing and why, and what will inspire you and excite you when you get your financial plan, because this is the this is the first page of the new chapter of your new financial life. So what will, you know, this is like a book that I want you to curl up with and want to read. So they sort of, what I get back from that prompt is varied, as you can see by these 2 pictures. Some people come up with something more aspirational. I've gotten a lot of beaches and sunsets, and then some people have a little bit of fun with it and let their sense of humor through, as you can see in the second example, where this was a popular Ryan Gosling meme of, hey girl, good job adulting today. So that more suited that client's personality. So I do include this as part of my financial plan process. And then we have also done at Brooklyn Plans various financial vision board events, which we're going to get to and talk to a little bit more, to allow people to really visually represent what it is that they want to happen with their finances or what they'd like to see come out of a good financial management. So we've done a lot of classes. One of our more popular classes here in Brooklyn and in Manhattan with women that get an opportunity to just talk about and really put on paper visually what their financial vision for themselves is. So I was doing this in my practice anyway, and sometimes I would get comments. I remember going back to the cover page, I had a client who said, wow, you really are from California, aren't you? And I am from California, but that struck them as being a very California exercise, or I feel like there's a little bit of a feeling of that being hippy-dippy and not what you expect from your financial planner. But recently, I was very excited. Somebody contacted me from the press about writing a story, and she heard that I did financial vision boarding and this type of work with clients, and she wanted to talk to me because there was a study that came out, and she wanted to find financial advisors that were practicing with clients how to envision the future. So it was a natural fit for her to contact me because of this research that was shared by the American Psychological Association. And I wanted to share a couple of quotes of the findings from this research. Basically, they found that those that have a clear picture of the future are less impulsive, save more, and spend less on debt. So a few nuggets of wisdom from the researcher that was responsible for this, Sarah Newcomb, a PhD and behavioral economist at Morningstar, said, our results suggest that by helping people to create vivid, detailed mental pictures of their future, we may be able to help people make better financial decisions. And she also said, which I found fascinating, the U.S. government has invested hundreds of millions of dollars into financial literacy programs, but these findings suggest that financial literacy alone may not be the answer. Working with individuals to develop a clearer picture of their future may have a more substantial impact than simply teaching financial concepts. Simple visualization and writing exercises designed to help people create vivid, detailed mental pictures of their future, help them improve their financial behaviors, and ultimately their lives. So I love this research because it validates what I find to be really helpful, and I didn't have, you know, the numbers or the methodology to prove it, but luckily there's psychologists for that. And this research I didn't find surprising because I've seen sort of qualitatively how it really helps people connect and get inspired about their finances and all the things they could do. And it shows a shift in mindset as opposed to how we often think about our finances, which is as a barrier or as something that's keeping us from doing all the things we want to do. So very excited to have this research to validate what I've been doing in my practice, and now we'll continue to do and share the research behind it. So I wanted to show you an example. This is Alexa, who was at a vision boarding event we did in November. She is the youngest participant and member of the Brooklyn Plans community. She's 8 years old, and she wants to be involved in the culinary arts. So she has a lot of pictures of plates and spoons and things like that on her vision board. And I love this idea of starting as early as 8 years old and creating a clear financial vision for yourself. Imagine how powerful and how much that will resonate for her going forward. Although it's never too late to start, but I just think she is an inspiration. So if she can do it, you can do it. And I do want to take a moment before going on just to say that a vision board, if it's something that's new to you, is something that is basically, the idea is to put together pictures of what you want to see in your life or what you want to see happen. People have different approaches to how they do it. You know, I've spoken to people, so I've gotten to talk to a lot of people about vision boarding techniques over the last year since we started doing these events. And some people, you know, put very clearly things they want to happen in their lives. And other people maybe just put down images that speak to them. A lot of people use words. And the idea initially of a vision board is really putting down on paper visually what you'd like to see or what you connect with in your life and want for your future. And then what we're doing is just taking that idea and sort of specializing it to be specifically what you envision or what want to see happen with your finances. Now, what happens is oftentimes, as I find with finances and financial planning, the two are very interlinked. So what you want to see happen with your finances is very related to what you want to see happen with your life. But I think having that clear of a topic to create your vision board with gives you focus and helps free up some of that, oh, I can't do that, or that's not possible, that tends to come up when we think about our finances. So for those of you joining us across the country and outside of New York and New York City, that doesn't mean you can't make your own financial vision board. You can, and in fact, it's something that you could potentially do yourself and get a group together. But you don't even need a group to do it. You could do it on your own. And I will show you what the steps that we take when we do these events as a group so that you could follow them and create your own financial vision boarding, your own financial vision board, excuse me. And I will say that some basic supplies are in order. You need some sort of poster board, scissors, glue, things you probably have laying around if you're crafty or have kids, and some magazines. And what we advise, how we take people through this course is we ask people to first take a moment to breathe, get centered, and visualize before getting started with the pictures, because maybe you want to get in the right headspace, clear out whatever stress or grocery list you have going on in your brain, and just get centered and think about what you really want to see this year and even going forward. And I would stress that at this point, and the whole idea of financial vision boarding is there are no boundaries. So don't worry about what's practical or realistic and let your imagination really run wild. And I have a quick anecdote about that, like I said, we often get constrained by what we feel money keeps us from doing. And I encourage my clients to think big and connect to their passions and what's most important to them outside of, putting finances aside, because there's often a way to use finances in order to connect with that more in your life. And I had a client who I asked her, what would you be doing if money were no object, which is what I asked all of my clients in the first meeting. And she said, oh, wow, I'd pay off my student loans. And I looked at her and I thought, okay, think bigger than that. What happens after you've paid off your student loans? And she was so caught up by the idea that she wouldn't be able to pay her loans off that she couldn't think past that. And she said, I just don't even know, I can't imagine that if my loans were paid off. So I think it can be hard to think beyond our financial stresses, but that it's important because that's what's going to motivate us to conquer them. And if we don't, if the whole point of paying off debt is just for it to be paid, then it's not very exciting. I know for some of you that may sound exciting, but it's really about what we can do after that, or on the other side, that I think is where it gets really interesting. So that's my first step. The second step is to consider what's important to you and your core values. So we talk about that in the class, to really have a foundation for whatever comes next for you financially, to make sure it's connected to what's important to you and what you value. The third step is to just look through magazines or newspapers, whatever you've got, and find images that speak to you and your vision, and then go crazy. So we bring glitter, googly eyes, feathers, and provide those to people to really make a creative, self-expression of their vision. And then a pro tip is to take a picture of your vision board and set it as your phone, laptop, tablet wallpaper so that your vision is always with you, and also to put the actual original somewhere visible to you so that you continue to see it and be connected to it going forward. So that's one tool to having a clear vision. Another is envisioning exercises, and we actually do both in the vision boarding class. We start off with an envisioning exercise and then go on to the vision board. But this is another exercise that can help you get a really clear picture of what you want to see in the future. So some prompts for you to try that would be, you know, you can try imagining a world where money is no object, or how you would spend your time if you didn't have to work. And if you're anything like a lot of my clients, a lot of them would love their jobs and would still be working even if money were no object, but sometimes in a different capacity or with more flexibility. And some of my clients would certainly not be working or would dedicate themselves to a new cause. Who do you want with you in your ideal future? What gives you a sense of purpose? Try imagining being debt-free. Or your dream home. So those are some ideas of something that you could just take a few minutes, you know, at the end of your day and breathe your day out and try one of these on for size. It could just be a couple of minutes. You could set a timer and just imagine. You really just one you don't need any tools for, and it can be a powerful tool for opening your mind and as the study shows, for also reducing impulsive financial decisions. And the last one I'm not going to talk about. I haven't personally used this strategy, but the study does talk about journaling as well. So as opposed to envisioning, you could also write about these prompts if you connect more to that medium of writing instead of a more visual or the envisioning exercise. So that's another option for how you could tap into or use a tool to envision your future. All right, so we have poll question number 2. Hopefully we've got some of the technical issues sorted out with some of you that are having trouble listening or with the sound. I want to ask you, what are you most excited to try first to connect with your vision of the future? So go ahead and put in the chat box for all participants. A, if you're most excited about trying a vision board. B, if you're excited about trying a visualization exercise. C, journaling, or D, other. Okay, great. So we have a creative answer that was not one of the options, D, all of the above. And I hope that you all will take at least one away, or all away would be great as well, for envisioning your year this year and beyond that, because this year is just one step in what you envision for your future. All right, so we're going to move into the more practical side of things. Not that the other piece is not practical, but into how can you actually start to make a plan for your goal. And I have 4 steps that I've outlined for a pathway to reaching your goals. And the first one is actually a very simple one, which is deciding to tackle your goal. So that's actually a really big step, is making the decision and committing to it. So The next poll question is, what goal is top of mind for you in the new year? So is it paying off debt? That'd be A. B, budgeting. C, saving for a specific purpose, like travel, home, education, retirement, or D, other. So I know a lot of us have intentions or resolutions for the new year, and some of those may be financial in nature. So if you have one that you're really focusing on, or that is the one that's sort of the itch you most want to scratch, go ahead and type that in the chat, A, B, C, or D. Okay, so it looks like with this one, we are a little bit all across the board except for D. So we had a lot for A, B, and C, which is sort of what I expected because those are really common goals. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you'll be able to use some tips and tricks to make steps towards reaching those in the new year. So the next step after you've made a decision about which goal is most important, and I do think it's important to focus at the same time. Sometimes we do have to multitask, but I think it's important to have a priority. That doesn't mean that that's the only thing you'll do. So if your priority is paying off debt, I oftentimes encourage my clients to save as well while that's happening, but it helps to have a top-of-mind, clear priority that you can focus on and really dedicate your energy to. That doesn't mean you leave everything else behind because, you know, financial planning and building a solid foundation involves many different fronts, such as debt, saving, retirement, insurance. So we do have to do a bit of multitasking, but I think it's important to have a priority at the same time. So my second step is to get informed. So once you've decided to tackle your goal, there's different ways that you could inform yourself about how to best approach that. Now that you know what your priority is, you can look for resources on that particular goal. At Brooklyn Plans, our website, we have a finance library that I can say I approve of the material in with videos and links. Royal Neighbors Foundation has a reading room. We've been collaborating to build that up, as well as past webinars that are recorded, both with me hosting, some of their own staff, as well as Lauren Lyons-Cole, who's also a certified financial planner, and great resource. So you can skim some of those topics and see if there's something related to what it is that you want to accomplish this year. Also talk to other people in your network that have done it. So if you know somebody who has bought a home and that's your goal, what did they learn? How can their experience help you? You're probably not the first one to go through this in your network. And the next step is to get a plan. So once you've decided what you're going to do, you've gotten some information, you've got some resources, now you can really start to put together a plan, and I'm going to give you a few tips for what could go into that or what some good resources are for that. So let's say your plan is to save for an emergency fund, and that's great. You know, maybe you figured out what would be a good starting point for that. I always tell people, yes, the goal is 3 to 6 months of your salary, but let's start where we are. And if we don't have anything saved, $500 is a great place to start. 1 month's rent could be a fine place to start. I think it's important to break up a bigger goal into achievable steps. So let's say you're trying to save 1 month's rent. I'm using New York City rent numbers, so forgive me if this seems overpriced for your area. It is crazy here. I believe that Brooklyn has the highest rent in the country, so that's where we're coming from. So there's a 52-week money challenge. I did not make this up. I wish I could claim credit. I don't know who did it. It's been going around online for some years, and there's so many people that have posted about it and reposted it. I'm not sure what the origin is anymore. Perhaps some of you have heard of this, but the idea with this challenge is it's a really accessible way to get into the habit of saving, and much like going to the gym where you start where you're at and then build up this, not tolerance, what's the word? You build up strength, right? And you increase the amount that you can lift or the number of minutes you can run on a treadmill or whatever it may be. So this is that same idea, and the idea here is that you start off week 1 of the new year by saving $1, week 2, $2, week 3, $3, and so on. I believe we're in week 3 now, so if you wanted to start this, you could get a jump start and save $6 this week and then be on track next week by saving $4. By the end of the year, by increasing how much you save by $1 each week, you end up with $1,378. So that's your 1 month's rent for a lot of people in Brooklyn, and a slow and steady wins the race. You know, by the end of 1 year, you'd have $1,300, 2 years you'd have $1,600, and so on. And that's a really easy way to get into the habit of saving and to build up your ability to save slowly so that you're not starting off, you know, if you haven't been saving, starting off saving $200 a month can be a lot for people. So this is one strategy that you could employ to be successful at a new savings goal. And you can also adjust these numbers. You know, if you've already been saving and you feel like 50 a week, that's no big deal. You could change it and up it by, you know, $1 each week or $2 each week or however fast you want to get to your goal. And with some quick calculator, Excel handiwork, you could customize this for your situation, your goal, and make it more accessible for you. So I also like, I'm a big believer and fan of automation. It's another great way to, another great tool to implement both savings and debt payoff. And so this is a sample of an online bank's interface. This is actually Capital One 360. There's also Ally Bank. I believe Discover and Amex also have decent online savings accounts that will allow you to set up an easy savings plan. And so the way this works is that you can, with these online savings accounts, which tend to have higher interest rates, and they make it really easy to save and pull money out of your main banking account or your checking account. So you can set this up and customize it to tell it, you know, let's pull $50 the 1st and the 16th of every month because that's when you get paid. And you can set up multiple savings accounts. A lot of people don't realize that you can have more than one savings account, particularly with these online banks. You can set up 5 and 10. I believe Capital One 360 allows up to 20. So you could have a savings account, and I do encourage this for people to have an emergency, or like they call it a stability fund, to then have a freedom fund, to also have perhaps a home down payment fund. So you can then set up individually and fund those goals through a dedicated account. And these online savings accounts make that really easy to do. And once you set it up, it's a lot harder to go in and cancel it or to make other decisions about your finances because this will happen automatically. So I'm a big fan of taking the work, clearing up our headspace and letting robots sort of handle our savings because they tend to do a better job of it than humans do. And there's other ways that you can automate. So I just spoke to taking advantage of online banks like Ally and Capital One 360 and their tools. We also can split often direct deposit between a checking and savings account. That's another way of automating. So you're saying, when I get paid, just pay a little bit to my savings every time, and you can usually set a dedicated dollar amount or a percentage of your pay to go straight to your savings account before you even get to see your pay. You can also have your bank send money to a savings account regularly if you have your checking and savings with the same bank. You can set bill pay through your bank to pay off bills on schedule, and you can also initiate a recurring payment to pay down debt. So in most platforms that I've seen for credit cards, you have the ability to say, I want to make a payment every month on X day of X amount of dollars, and you can usually set it up to be the full statement balance or the minimum payment or a fixed number. So if you do have a debt payment plan, one way that's likely to improve your chances of success are to automate your payments so that they're happening regularly and without you having to think about whether this month you want to pay down your debt or do something else. And you can, so that's the automatic payment through under that last bullet point there. And the last point of my 4-step plan for you to tackle your goals in the new year is to celebrate your successes, however minor. And maybe this picture looks out of place, but I'll explain. There's context. So I actually wrote an article that's featured in the Royal Neighbors reading, and which you should check out, about baby steps, how to tackle your financial goals in the new year. And I spoke with Elizabeth Enright Phillips, who's a minimalist and financial coach, and she incorporates rewards along the way as her clients reach milestones. So she had a client that loved pumpkin pie, and so when they reached certain milestones, they celebrated and rewarded themselves with a slice of pumpkin pie. And she had another client who was very invested in giving back to the community, and when she reached a financial goal, she gave money back to certain organizations that she cared about deeply. So that allowed her to connect with something bigger than herself in her own pursuit of a financial goal, and to motivate herself by thinking about how much she'd be able to give back to her community if she reached it. So that's another great strategy to make you feel more accountable. And when I say however minor, I mean, let's say that you have a goal of saving $500 for a trip, and you save $100. That's important. That's a milestone along the way, and you could do something at that point to celebrate yourself and your commitment to that goal. Because if we wait until the very end, it can be hard to stay motivated. And it's really, I want to emphasize, it's a lot about the process and not the end result. And if you're able to save $100, you can save $100,000. That's the first step. So I think it's important to acknowledge your accomplishments and celebrate them so that you do stay motivated and realize that the more important thing to me is my clients building that habit and building that capacity to save. Once you have that, it's just a matter of time and getting raises so that you can continue to increase what you're able to save. And that will oftentimes happen naturally. But if you don't have that capacity to save and you haven't built up that ability and that habit, then the raises are going to fall through your fingers, and the time, it's not going to get better. So that's a really important piece of a financial plan, and I can't overemphasize that enough. So that's why I do encourage people to celebrate and acknowledge how well they are doing when they've made these steps. And we're so hard on ourselves. I hear my clients all the time, beating themselves up. I should have done this. I should have started contributing to my 401k when I was 20, and on. And it's like, hey, cut out the negativity, and you're doing it now, and that's all you can do, and that's awesome. So I do try to encourage my clients to take that positive mindset. All right, well, we are at Q&A, so hopefully you have been getting your questions over to Mary. Again, if you've sent them to me, I'm not able to multitask at this time, so please resend them to Mary, and she will field your questions, and we'll do our best we can to answer them.
Yeah, so we have a couple questions coming in, not a whole lot, but a couple of them are around, so some folks have goals that are really long-term, and it's like, you know, I just got out of school and I have some student loans, but my goal is to buy a home, and I'm looking out, you know, it's going to take me a while. So how do I stay motivated? How do I build a vision board around a long-term goal like that that's really going to keep me focused?
Yeah, I think that that's a great question, and I think that's the first step for a long-term goal is getting a long-term goal is getting really clear about what that end result is. And there's what I mean by the end result are two specific things. The time frame. So are you talking 5 years? Are you talking 10 years? Are you talking 20? Probably not. But you need to know what the time frame that you're looking to achieve that goal in. And then number two is what you're going to need at the end of that time to be able to reach it. So there's, you know, a few steps involved for if you're looking at buying a home, you know, you're looking at a down payment. That's usually 20% of the total. So it's going to take a little bit of guesswork, but you can do estimated guesswork and educated guesswork as opposed to, you know, shotgun on a barn door guesswork. So you'll need to know the time frame and the final amount, and then once you have that, you work backwards. You know, if you're looking at 5 years, and you find out that you'd have to save $500 a month to get to that goal by the end of that term, then you ask yourself, is that doable? If the answer is yes, great. If it's no, then maybe it's 6 years. Or maybe you have to lower the purchase price that you have in mind. But this is where clarity is your friend. If you can get as clear as you can about your time frame and your total that you're going to need by the end of that frame, then you can work backwards, and then you know exactly what you need to do this year to be on track for reaching your goal in 5 years.
Okay, thank you for that. That makes sense, kind of breaking it down and making it a little more palatable instead of that overwhelming feeling that you might get when, you know, you're trying to get these large goals accomplished. So a couple more questions around the vision board that seems to have interested some of our participants. So one of our listeners has asked, I have like 5 different goals that I want to try to achieve. So do I incorporate all of those in one vision board, or do I do 5 vision boards, or do I force rank the most important goal and then kind of go from there? So kind of an interesting approach to that vision board concept. Can you kind of tell us your experience with that and how participants handle that?
Sure. I think it's great to have 5 goals. I think that there's different ways you can handle that. And the thing about vision boarding is, you know, who am I? I'm not the authority in financial vision boarding. So there's no right or wrong answer, but I'll give you some ideas of I mean, my first reaction to that question is, sure, but it falls down. There's no rules in vision boarding. There's no limitations. And just because it's on your vision board doesn't mean that it's all going to happen this year, but you might as well get it out there, and you never know. And then I would say I've had participants in my classes that do sort of categories of their vision boards. I've seen people split it into quadrants. I've more seen that with broader categories like professional goals, financial goals, personal goals, things like that. But you could do that. You could have quadrants. And, you know, when you sit down and start looking at the images, you might get something very different than what's in your mind right now on your board. And I encourage people to go with their gut as they're looking at magazines and what really speaks to them and what resonates with them. And it might not be at all what is in your mind right now. It might, you know, you might end up with a vision board that's all pictures of water, who knows. But I think that's great to have multiple goals and pick one that's near and dear to your heart to focus on and keep those other ones going on the back burners.
Yeah, okay, those vision board concepts are really interesting, and I was thinking about, personally, it would be kind of fun to have a vision board party, and maybe you have a book club or some women's group or something where you just get together and you do this activity, because it's all about keeping your goals straight in front of you and being focused and changing or modifying some behavior that keeps you from achieving those goals. So if you've got that on your refrigerator or, you know, on your phone or whatever, you're just being constantly reminded that you have to keep on that track. So I think those are great ideas to, you know, start the year off and achieve those financial goals. So I think that's all that we have for questions. So I'll hand it back to you, Kristen, and we can do the wrap-up.
Great, thanks so much, and thank you for your questions. So your next steps, because like I said, I'm a former school teacher, so I always have to leave with some homework, are to practice using a tool like vision boarding or a visualization exercise to get a clearer picture of your future. Make a plan to make measurable progress on your goal this year. And I emphasize progress because, particularly like that question we had about long-term goals, it may not be that you can achieve the full entire long-term goal this year, but it is a goal in and of itself to reach a milestone on that goal. So we want to plan for that and make sure that we are on track for that this year. And lastly is to celebrate the milestones along the way. And I wanted to thank you so much for joining us. Please do keep in touch. We are at brooklynplans.org. We're on all the social media, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. We have a Facebook group, Women Wealth Warriors, where we post and support each other through our financial journeys as women. So please do join us there, and we will continue to partner with Royal Neighbors Foundation to provide you with quarterly webinars and information so that you can get as far as you can on your own with your finances. And I believe our next one we have on the calendar is for April on investing. So that'll be a fun one with spring and growth, and that one will be much more technical in nature and all of the basics for investing. So keep an eye out on our website and Facebook for that event as we post more details about how to sign up and the dates and all of that. And thank you so much. I'll pass it back to you, Mary, and I will mute.
Okay, well, thanks again, everyone, for joining us today. And please check out the website. Kristen talked about the reading room. We've got lots of good periodicals and reading information out there for you to become more informed about your finances. We also have some webinars to view, and we'll put this webinar out there. It'll probably be available by tomorrow if anyone wants to revisit it. And watch for information about our next one that will be in April. And just thanks for joining us today, and until then, stay informed on your goals and focused and know your worth. Thank you.